Hi everyone. I was just about to open this model and then I just decided that it might be a nice one to make a video about. So this model costs around £80 in the UK, which is probably about as cheap as you're going to get for a brand new model. It's an Austrian loco and it's quite a popular class. So if you're thinking about getting into European models like I have recently, this is probably one that you're going to be sort of looking at as a starting point. So it's by Piko, which are one of the big brands in Germany and Austria and stuff. And it's one of their hobby models, which is like Hornby Railroad. But there's a bit of a difference, which I'll show you in a second. So you don't get much with it, just a little card that's got some extra products in and some basic instructions telling you how to get the body off and stuff. So quite useful, but yeah, quite basic packaging, which is fine. This one's in a promotional livery, so usually these locos are red, but in Austria and probably Germany and other countries as well, it's quite common to have promotional liveries. This one represents an Austrian bank livery, which I think is just a one-off, or there might be a couple of them in this livery in real life, I'm not sure. But I know it's a real bank anyway, because when we went to Vienna, we walked past one of these banks and I thought it was quite nice when I saw the model of it. So it's quite nicely applied, the livery, for a really basic model, or basic price model anyway. It's very good, and it's the same on both sides. I think one of the things that lets this down compared to more expensive models is that the windows are black, so they've not bothered to put any cab detail in there, which I guess is one of the areas where they've sort of kept the price down. But the pantographs are really good, plenty of detail on the roof. Another area where it's sort of more basic is the underframe. So the bogies are fine, if you can see that. The lighting's not great in here. But the underframe itself is quite basic, which I can live with because I'll just use this as a train that sort of runs. I won't necessarily need it to look particularly good, because as it's passing you, you're not really going to be looking in great detail anyway. So I've had these before. You have to take the buffers off carefully, they just pull out. Kind of reminds me of an old Lima model in that sense. So something like the old Lima 47, to get the body off you had to pull the buffers out. So they're just sort of a tight push fit, and just pull them out as straight as you can so you don't break them. And then the body lifts off, and it's fairly simple inside. So you've got an 8-pin DCC socket, but crucially you've got lights. So it's just a single LED, so you've just got white lights, you don't have any reds at the back, but these generally get coupled up to things like the railjet coaches. They can be used on freight as well, but not many people, I guess, are going to run engine's light engine on a model railway. So for a compromise for something that's around £80, I think that's really good value anyway. I don't think it's particularly an issue. The other advantage of these is that you've got loads of space, so I'll be putting sound in this one. So I know from doing them in the past that at each end I can get a 25 by 25 by 7 speaker, so it sounds better than some of the more expensive Taurus models, and yeah, it's a nice easy one to fit. So personal opinion on these models is that they're really good. I'd happily buy more. They do it in quite a few liveries. I've got 2 red ones already, and I bought this one with it being Austrian as well, because I like Austrian stuff. But yeah, if they do any more, I'll probably buy them. I just think they're really good for the money to sort of either fill up a depot with, or just to have on your trains that are running sort of at speed. The other thing I didn't mention actually is that the motor's in the middle and you've got a drive shaft down to each axle, so all the wheels are powered. which is another nice feature, which this is where it differs from Hornby Railroad, because usually on Hornby Railroad you'd have probably a plastic chassis. This is solid metal, so it's really heavy. You'd usually only have one axle, well, one bogie powered, but this has got both. And you wouldn't have lights on Hornby Railroad either, on most models. So I think what they've managed to put into this for a budget model is really good. But to be fair to Hornby, the UK is a much smaller market, so in Germany, Austria, I think these run into Hungary, probably into most of the European countries along that side where Hungary is. So you've got a huge market for selling these models into. I know there's a Polish one as well, for example, that you can buy. So there's so much more area that these cover that I guess they're getting more use out of them, and they're probably building them in much higher quantities and stuff to keep the cost down. So I guess that's just the disadvantage for us British modelers, that our models are made in lower numbers. But yeah, really good this for the money. Something else that comes up regularly with these is whether or not they've got traction tyres. So a lot of the German models do, or European models, but these don't. I guess it's just because they don't need them. But even things like the Roco one, which is more expensive, does have traction tyres. It's not really seen as a negative on European models. I guess because this is a cheaper model, it's maybe seen as a negative that this doesn't. But I know a lot of people in the UK would like that anyway. Hopefully people have found this interesting. If you're thinking about getting into German models or Austrian or whatever, this is a really good starting point. It's pretty much how I started, and I've gone on to buy sort of more detailed and more expensive models since, but I still really like these, and I'd still recommend them to people, especially as your first one. So it's well worth getting into it this way. I don't sell them, but if you're interested, I'll put some links in the description of shops that I use in Germany, and there's places in the UK you can buy them too. But yeah, a really good model. I can supply sound for them if you want in sound, and hopefully people have found this interesting as a bit of a different video. So thanks for watching it, and I'll do something similar soon. Just a little bit of a follow-up on this. Something I noticed while I was putting the body back on. The cab does actually have a driver pre-fitted, but the windows are so dark that you can barely see it. So that's a bit of a shame really. They could have just used lighter plastic and you'd have been able to see that there's a driver in there. But like I say, still a really good model for the money. Still hard to fault overall.